Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to explain a movie called Up. Get comfortable. In the film, a young boy, Carl Fredrickson, watches a reel of his idol, Charles Muntz, an explorer, on an expedition in Paradise Falls in South America. Muntz is praised for his adventurous spirit and inventions, which enabled him to explore the falls. One day, Muntz returns from one of his trips with the skeleton of a giant bird. However, the science community accuses him of presenting a fake skeleton, and he is stripped of his membership. The young Carl is unhappy to hear the news as he feels sorry for his idol. Since no one believes him, Muntz returns to the falls to capture the giant bird and clear his name. He returns to Paradise Falls with his Zeppelin, named the Spirit of Adventure. Muntz has traveled the world in this airship and has used it to collect various things he finds along his many adventures. Sometime later, Carl pretends to be Muntz, playing around his neighborhood, carrying a balloon he named Spirit of Adventure after his mentor's airship. He pretends he is going on an adventure. Suddenly, he discovers an abandoned house on the street where another Muntz fan named Ellie pretends to be Muntz on an adventure too. Carl is excited to meet her, and she explains that the house is her clubhouse. She makes Carl a member of her Explorer Club when he shows interest in Muntz. Carl's balloon floats to the top of the clubhouse, and Carl hurts himself while trying to retrieve it. That night, Ellie returns his balloon and shows him her adventure book after Carl promises not to tell anyone about it. She tells him she wants to move her clubhouse to a cliff on Paradise Falls in the future. She also hopes to have many adventures as she ages and save them in her adventure book. Carl is amused and impressed by her thirst for adventure and remains friends with her. Years later, the two marry and rebuild the clubhouse, where they eventually live. At the same time, Carl works as a balloon salesman, and Ellie is a tour guide at the zoo. After being married for a few years, the couple starts to discuss having children. However, they discover that Ellie is infertile after she suffers a miscarriage. The news breaks their heart, and they decide to refocus on their childhood dreams of being explorers instead. They begin saving for a trip to Paradise Falls, but the couple is constantly forced to spend their savings on more urgent needs. However, they refuse to give up on their dream. After many years of saving, Carl finally decides to arrange the trip as a surprise for Ellie. Still, on the day Carl plans to surprise Ellie, she suddenly falls ill and is hospitalized. On her deathbed, Ellie hands over her adventure book to Carl, urging him to hold on to their dream. She dies soon after, leaving Carl devastated. Carl becomes grumpy after Ellie's death and retires soon after. Sometime later, he refuses to allow his house to be demolished by construction workers who offer him a huge sum of money to evaluate his building. Carl makes fun of the construction workers, telling them they will only have his house when he is dead. One day, a young boy named Russell arrives at Carl's porch. He explains that he is a wilderness explorer who wants to earn his last merit badge for assisting an aged person. Carl turns him away, but when Russell insists on helping him out, he asks Russell to help catch a snipe troubling his lawn. Russell runs off excitedly, hoping to earn his badge. A few hours later, Carl and Ellie's mailbox is damaged by a construction worker who apologizes and offers to help Carl fix it. Carl gets aggressive and injures the construction worker. Carl is sorry for his actions and immediately hides in his house, feeling remorseful. However, he is summoned by the court, believing he is a public menace. Carl is ordered to vacate his home and relocate to an assisted living facility. Dejected, Carl wonders what he should do. He goes through Ellie's adventure book and decides to keep Ellie's promise of moving the clubhouse to a cliff near Paradise Falls. The next day, when workers from the facility arrive to pick him up, Carl reveals that he has turned the house into a makeshift airship using lots of balloons. The floating house takes off, and Carl is relieved to finally fulfill his promise to Ellie. As the house drifts off to Paradise Falls, Carl discovers that Russell is on his porch as he had crawled underneath the house to catch the snipe troubling Carl's lawn. Russell thinks Carl is smart by transforming his house into a makeshift airship since he gets to travel with all his belongings. Carl is horrified to see him and tries to land the house so he can send Russell home. Russell meddles with the airship's steering wheel and accidentally propels the airship farther away to South America. Suddenly, they encounter a storm that propels the house to South America, making Russell Carl's stowaway. Sometime after, Carl recovers from unconsciousness and tries to free more balloons, allowing the house to float downwards. It lands on a cliff opposite Paradise Falls. However, the house starts to float away when Carl and Russell step out to investigate their surroundings. To keep the house from floating away, Carl and Russell harness themselves to the house and begin to walk it across the cliff. Carl hopes they can reach the falls before the balloons deflate. On their way, Russell had to pee and encountered a giant, colorful flightless bird. Russell lures the bird out of hiding with chocolate and names it Kevin. Carl is hesitant to keep Kevin, but when Russell begs to allow him to keep it, he agrees. Suddenly, the trio runs into Doug, a golden retriever who wears a special collar that allows him to talk. The device translates Doug's thoughts into words. Doug explains that the collar was built by his master, who sent him to retrieve Kevin. Again, Russell asks Carl to allow him to keep Doug, and he hesitantly agrees. In the meantime, a pack of fierce dogs, also wearing collars, search for Kevin for their master. When Doug reveals that he has found the bird, they run off in search of him. Carl soon becomes frustrated with the animals and tries to get rid of them by tricking them, but they soon return, annoying Carl. That night, they stop to rest when heavy rain starts to fall. Russell tries to build a tent for old Carl but fails, upsetting him. He reveals that he has never built a tent because his father never taught him how to since he is never around. Russell hopes to earn the last merit badge so his father can attend the award ceremony. Carl feels sorry for Russell and promises to protect Kevin when Russell tells him to cross his heart like Ellie used to say. In the morning, Kevin cries to her chicks at the other end of the fall, and Russell realizes Kevin is a she. Kevin leaves but quickly returns when she sees the fierce dogs arrive. The dogs are furious not to find Kevin and insist on taking Carl, Russell, and Doug to their master. They soon arrive in a huge cave where the group discovers that the dog's master is the elderly Charles Muntz. Carl is happy to see his mentor. He tells him about his and Ellie's dream to be adventurers like him and invites Carl and the group aboard his airship. While they eat, Muntz talks about his fruitless search for the wingless bird to redeem himself and return to the city. Muntz wonders if Carl has come for the bird too, and Carl realizes Muntz's horrifying obsession with finding the bird has caused him to kill innocent travelers whom he assumes have come for the bird. Carl becomes terrified and wants to leave, but Russell unintentionally reveals that they have seen the bird, which he has named Kevin. Muntz immediately becomes hostile, and when he spots Kevin atop Carl's house, he orders the dogs to pursue Carl, Russell, and Doug, assuming they're thieves who have come to take the bird for themselves. Kevin helps them escape capture, and Russell urges Carl to help Kevin return to her chicks, but Muntz tracks the group through Doug's collar. He arrives to capture her and starts a fire beneath Carl's house, forcing him to choose between saving his house or rescuing Kevin. Carl ultimately chooses his house and stops the fire, leaving Russell dejected and betrayed since Carl promised to protect Kevin. Later, Carl finally lands at the house by the falls and looks through Ellie's adventure book, discovering that she has filled the blank pages with photos of their marriage. Carl also finds a note from her, thanking him for the adventure he gave her and encouraging him to have a new one. Feeling reinvigorated, Carl decides to help Kevin and discovers that Russell is going after Kevin with some of his balloons. Carl then empties his house, allowing it to float upwards again. Doug shows up at Carl's porch and accepts to be his master. Shortly after, Muntz captures Russell, but Carl and Doug break into the airship, freeing both Russell and Kevin. However, Muntz chases them all over the airship until they are trapped. Carl holds onto the tethered house as Muntz tries to break in and take Kevin. Carl then lures Kevin back to the airship with a piece of chocolate, causing Muntz to leap after them, ultimately falling to his death. However, the house can no longer float and descends. Carl decides to let it go, and they leave the fall with Muntz's airship. Kevin is reunited with her chicks, and Carl and Russell return to the city in Muntz's airship. Shortly after, Russell receives his merit badge, and Carl presents Russell with the Ellie badge, a badge Ellie gave him. Russell, Doug, and Carl spend time together as he now lives in Muntz's airship with the other dogs. Meanwhile, the house lands on the cliff beside Paradise Falls, just as Ellie wanted. That was all from the video. For more content like this, subscribe to this channel.